Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case file number 1556, written by Pseudononymist, a Beijing biker mystery. A few months ago, I was at the corner of an intersection in Beijing. A man on an electric bike with a few packages on the back, probably a courier, was crossing the intersection along the zebra stripes towards me. Just then, a small van was rounding the corner in front of me, directly across the path of the biker, who was going too fast to stop. I cringed as I heard the heavy thunk of his bike hitting the side of the van, but at least it didn't sound like he fell over or anything broke. The van stopped for a moment, but then drove off. But the biker was just gone. I had a clear view of every direction he could have ridden off, but he just had disappeared, as if he had been absorbed into the side of the van. Second story. On my wedding night, we were just going to bed when the phone started ringing. I picked it up and suddenly found myself sucked into this just kidding. I picked it up and a man on the line asked, "Is this room 14? Is Kay Mitchell there?" "Sorry," I said, "you have the wrong room." I hung up the phone a bit stunned. It was the name of my late grandmother. I never did find out who was in room 14. Case also file 1556, a Beijing biker mystery. So as a cyclist who loves e-bikes, this is very unsettling, especially unsettling for me. There are distracted people everywhere, and I certainly don't want to fuse into a van if I crash into one, or die. Either would be terrible. I guess it's multiverse sight, but that doesn't explain the fusion of the cyclist into the van. That's just bizarre. Although even, I don't have an explanation for that one, but you got me on the joke of fusing into the phone, but no, it was just your grandma from a different reality. But who is the man? Was it her husband? Bonus file written by Syuk, the Spectral Stroll of Mr. Bentley. Not my story, but a friend of mine. He is an old physics teacher, pretty open-minded. One day in the pub, we were talking about ghosts, and I suggested that a person's energy could be contained in items like big rocks or vehicles if that is where they died. He told me he had 2 ghost stories which he believed were true. I pressed him to tell me, and he told me about Mr. Bentley. When he had been in his early 30s, he lived next door to an undertaker's or chapels of rest. One night, he was having a smoke before bedtime when he happened to look down into the garden of his apartment, which was between his building and the chapel of rest. In the garden, he saw the shape of a man made entirely out of what he described as Christmas tree lights. The shape walked around the garden and suddenly disappeared. A few days later, he was coming back from work and saw the undertaker cleaning his hearse in the yard. He said hello as usual and asked him about the thing he had seen in the garden. The undertaker told him, "That's Mr. Bentley. He came in on Monday." My friend presumed the undertaker meant Mr. Bentley was a new member of staff, but Mr. Bentley wasn't. He was sitting in the chapel of rest, waiting for a distant relative to take care of the arrangements. My friend was shocked and said that he felt as though someone had walked over his grave. The undertaker laughed and told him it wasn't the first time one of his customers had been seen taking a walk in the gardens. He wouldn't tell me his other story. Case notes for the bonus file, the Spectral Stroll of Mr. Bentley. Imagine checking into a hotel as a ghost and the receptionist is completely welcoming and it's just another Tuesday, no big deal. Nice. We should all be so welcoming to ghosts. Friendly ghosts, at least. And I guess they qualify under the Disabilities Act, right? They're kind of disabled. Although they do have some neat powers, so I mean, who's to say? Bonus file, written by thewriterben, the mystery of the white object. One time I was sitting at my computer, goofing off, when a small white object flew out of nowhere and hit my desk. I picked it up and it appeared to be PVC or something similar and had broken off from something. The object was shaped funny and broken at an odd fracture. I looked everywhere and could not find anything in the entire house that it could have broken off from. In the same room, I would hear my keyboard randomly typing at night. I even left my computer on with a Word document for a few nights as suggested by the woman who is now my girlfriend, but nothing happened those nights. I also have dreamed of several places that I later saw in real life that I had never seen. I still have locations that reoccur in dreams that I wonder if I might just visit someday. I once dreamed that my sister became pregnant and lost the baby. The next day I told my brother about the dream and he became white as a sheet. and had a look I'd never seen in him before, for unbeknownst to me, my sister and her husband had recently become pregnant and only to miscarry soon after. My family barely ever talked to me unless there was a reason, and my brother was the first I had talked to since it happened. On the morning of April 19th, 1995, I was just a young child riding on the school bus when I had an extremely strong and persistent feeling that something bad was going to happen. I didn't know what, but the feeling was overwhelming until suddenly it melted away and I said to myself, "It happened." Minutes later, as the regularly scheduled news segment on the radio came on, the DJ announced the breaking news that minutes earlier, an explosion had happened at the Alfred P. Murrah building in Oklahoma City. Yes, the Oklahoma City bombing. Oh, and I had watched and looked at the time. Upon realizing it had happened at 8:02, I lived in the Mountain Time Zone, and the event happened Central. So it would have been an hour ahead, 9:02, the exact time of the bombing. I had similar feelings the morning of 9/11, the Japanese tsunami, and when the morning my family found out that my infant cousin had been murdered the previous night. I have had many strange things happen, but the one I will end with is on Halloween when I was young. I lived way out in the country, and at one point in the night I looked out the glass door and saw the Grim Reaper standing past the yard behind the ditch. This filled me with an extreme fear and I looked away quickly. Then out of curiosity I looked back, moments later, and saw nothing. I recently asked my siblings and cousins if they had done it to trick me, and they all said no, they never did such a thing, that they would have remembered, but that would have been funny to do. Plus, if they did, by nature, they would torment me about it later. Remind me to tell you all about the hermit who died from eating the poison apple. That is a fun one, and took me years to feel safe eating apples from our orchard again. Case notes for the bonus file, The Mystery of the White Object. So yeah, there's a lot going on in this story, but I wanted to focus on the PVC pipe that just came from nowhere. Because we have returning object phenomena, but again, as specified before, it can come from any universe. So there probably is a universe out there where you have exposed PVC pipe in your room, and it just broke off and a piece of it vanished while falling. And voila, now it's just in your universe. It's so simple and so elegant. It's almost like a simple, beautiful equation. Kinetic energy is half mass times velocity squared. It's beautiful in its simplicity. And when something can explain something so beautifully, accurately, well, what's not to love about that? Now, it's just a hypothesis. I wouldn't say this is a theory. Theory is too tested. We still have so much more to go before we get to that point. But still great because it really does fit well so far. And now time for the quote of the day. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. Michael Masser and Linda Creed. Well, along similar lines, they say, you can't love someone else unless you love yourself. And I believe that's true. If you don't love yourself, you literally have no foundation to even stand up on, let alone build a house of love. And I also think people who don't appreciate themselves, they're not as secure, so they'll be more clingy and, not that clingy is wrong, but especially early on, you want to temper it. You want to be sure that you're okay in yourself, so you don't need someone else. It's just a bonus. It's an addition to your life. If you need them to live, to survive, that's dangerous. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony signing off.